which makes me be able to do all of this, right? So I think having partners is definitely something that I encourage, because with two people or however many people, right, you're able to get a lot further as long as it's someone you can trust and you know, that you have a good relationship with. But when people try to say, oh, I'm gonna do it all by myself, I don't want any help, I don't want, you know, you tend to not get as far. I'm not saying you can't get, right, but I think you can get further quicker having those people around you that are gonna be able to elevate you to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah, what are some good qualities you find in like partners that you want partners?
A good quality is someone, I think, that's understanding. Not perfect, but understanding, right? And I think that when I look for a partner, I look for someone that is just going to put in the effort, but is also understanding of when you might mess up. If me and you are partners and you mess up, the first time you mess up, I just say, hey, I don't want to be your partner no more because you're just messing up. That's not a good partner, right? It's a good partner is someone that's going to say, hey, I think maybe next time we could do this, and this is how I would do it, but I understand where you could have thought that, right? And so I think it's just having that understanding mindset, but also having a line, right? Everyone has a line that if you cross that line, maybe we don't want to be partners anymore. But someone that can communicate with you, same like relationships too, right? You have to have someone that's going to communicate with you properly, or else it's not going to work. It's just how it is. So it's the same in a business. If you can't communicate efficiently with your partner, it's never going to work, right? You have to be able to communicate, and then also just have someone that's on the same page of wanting to work as hard as you do, and being on that same page of let's work together, let's do this, let's put in the sweat equity or whatever it is, and then let's communicate. And I think with those two things, being open with each other, I don't see how it doesn't work out, right? As long as that doesn't change over time.
So you said you have been doing real estate since you were about 18.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you wait until now to venture out and start your own company?
I think a few things is, one, you have to wait 2.5 years to get your broker's license. And before that, I think there's a lot of it. This is just for real estate in particular, right? There's a lot of more on the back end of real estate that a lot of people don't think of, like legal aspect, like what if you get sued, what if you do, and if you're by yourself, you have to worry about all those things, right? It's not just, oh, how many deals do you have, or all those other things that you're thinking about. But when you're running a business, there's accounting, there's so many other things that go into it, and I think you really have to be in the right spot in order to make that move, because there's a lot of extra things that come with it. And I wanted to make sure that I was in a place where I would be able to know that I can effectively do it, and have a good chance of it not failing. There's always a chance, it's business, right? But I wanted to be in the right mindset and feel confident enough. And I think confidence is the biggest thing when you have a job or when you're opening a business. Is if you're not confident in yourself, or you don't feel like you're providing value, I want to be able to bring you on as real estate, right? You want to be a realtor or whatever. I want to bring you onto my brokerage and be confident this is the best place for you to be, right? And I truly feel that way now, but I think that just came with some time and, you know, and just understanding how I want to do it, right? And I think now is the right time. So. Yeah.
Speaking of time management, you know, the Hive members are students, and then a lot of us have like business endeavors as well. I'm sure you were the same when you were a student. And do you feel like the skills of managing classes and business in school, but also managing all your different classes, like applied when you graduated and you had to juggle, you know, multiple business ventures like the real estate and the barbecue place? Did you use any of the same systems that you used to manage your time in university and business?
Same systems, yes. I think the same system applies in the sense that when you're in school, maybe you're not gonna always use everything you learned in the class, right? Or maybe you use some of the things. But what you're more doing is understanding that, okay, if I need to be here at this time, then you're gonna be here at this time, right? I think it's those principles that we're learning of how to be efficient with your time and your scheduling, and learning how to input your class schedule into your calendar, and inputting, oh, you have an assignment due, you're gonna do it on time, right? Same thing with work. You're building those habits. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from going to Sac State and, you know, going to school was the habits that you can build that are going to directly relate to whatever work you're doing, whatever business you're doing. Because as you know, in college, you might be staying up late, doing a lot of work, doing whatever, dealing with the hive, dealing with your school, classes, homework, all that. You stay up late sometimes, you have to wake up early sometimes, and that's what a business is, right? You're doing the same thing in a business, and I think it does correlate like in that way, yes, definitely.
What was the education behind your real estate career? Because you said starting at 18, I don't think you were in college at that point, right?
No, I was in high school. The education that I had was three courses that they make you take to become a realtor, and I came into it with no really education. I don't have anyone in my family that does real estate besides me. I didn't know any realtors, you know, so I came into it kind of with blind faith, except for the courses that I took about real estate, you know, to get your license. But I think that had its own challenges for sure that I had to face, not, you know, being so young in real estate, not still being in high school, not even having a college degree, and I took a lot of adversity, I want to say, and as time goes on, you start to build your confidence and start to really understand. I think when you have a business, the thing you have to understand most is what value are you giving to someone, right? That's what a business is you're either providing a service or a product or whatever your business you have, you're providing some type of value, right? And for real estate, your value is your service. Why would you choose me as your realtor over anybody else in Sacramento? There's tens of thousands of agents out there in Sacramento. Why would you choose me? And I think when I first started, not being in college, not, you know, being really young and having all those things to overcome, I had to really sit and think of, okay, why would someone use me, and what value am I giving to my customers, right, the consumers? Yeah.
Can you break down some of your value propositions specifically, like the specifics of why people would go with you, a new agent, over someone else? Are there things you did to like differentiate yourself?
Yeah, so mine now are a little different than when I first started. When I first started, mine was that I was going to work harder than anybody else for you, and that I still had the resources and the knowledge. I can get the knowledge. If I didn't know the answer, I still had people that I could rely on to get the answer, but I would work harder for you than anybody else. That was my value proposition, is I'm going to make it known that you should use me, because if you don't, you're going to see the difference in the way that I work compared to someone else. Just my work ethic as a whole, right? And so when I first started, that was my thing, was you're going to hear from me. I'm going to follow up with you more than anyone else. If I meet you at an open house or I've never met you, you're going to hear from me. I'm going to be on top of your mind when you think about buying or selling a home more than anyone else. And I'm going to work for you harder than anyone else. And I'm going to show you more homes, and I'm not going to complain more than anyone else. And I'm going to do anything that it is, whatever the task is, better than anyone else, right? And that's kind of what built my confidence as time goes on. You start to get more clients that way, because they see how hard you're working. And yeah, maybe you're young, but you're working real hard. I like that you work hard. Sometimes they like, oh, you're young, and I like how hard you work. That's hard to find, or whatever they say, right? And so you start to build that, and that starts to build your confidence. And then once you have your confidence, then you can change your value proposition to, maybe you've built more knowledge, and now people use me because of how knowledgeable I am in real estate, right? So you can shift it as time goes on. But when I first started, I would say that was my value proposition, is no one will outwork me, right? And yeah, maybe they are, but in my head, that's how I was operating.
That's an incredible explanation. Have you practiced that before? That's like
No.
motivational speech material.
No, I haven't, but thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Besides like the courses you took, like is there any books that kind of stands out to you that you still use to this day that helped you in your career?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the main books that I read that stood out to me the most that helped me the most was How to Win Friends and Influence Others. I don't know if you guys have read that book. That book really stuck with me once I started doing some deals in real estate, and just how to talk to people and how to, talk to buyers, sellers, whatever the case is. That's a real good book. I don't know if you've read that one or not yet.
So I do sales too. It's like
Okay. Yeah, that's a real good book. I like that book. Another one is by Dale.
Carnegie?
Yep, that one. I'm reading one right now. I haven't finished it, but so far it's real good. And it's the E-Myth for real estate agents. And it's basically about how to operate a successful in this case it's a real estate business, but he has the book about just all businesses. But and what it talks about is how important your personal life is and your business life is linked, right? When you run a business, and it's the same thing how I think about my calendar is my business calendar is the same as my personal. It's all one calendar, right? I'm one single person. I'm not gonna have two different calendars. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, well, I have a calendar for like my work, and then I have a calendar for my personal life, and I have a calendar for what I gotta do for my kids, or whatever the case is. That you're not three people at one time. So my biggest thing is you have one calendar, right? You can only be at one place at one time. So why would you have more than one calendar, right? And so that kind of relates back to the book, because he's saying if your business is really well off and your business is just is super successful, do you think at home in your personal life you're gonna be super well off and happy too, right? And if your business has a lot of money, do you think you'll be struggling at home with no money? Probably not, right? If your business is just stressing you out and you're just stressed out every day, do you think you're gonna go home and just be completely fine? Or do you think you're gonna be stressed out when you get home too, right? You're gonna be stressed out. And so that's the thing with business is in your personal life, it's just one whole big thing. You don't get to separate the two, right? Compared to a lot of other places where you have a 9-to-5 job, you leave your job, oh, work stressed me out, I'm going home, not thinking about work, right? Yes. This is your own business. You can't really do that. So it correlates so much.
And I feel like it goes both ways too, because if you're having problems in your personal life,
Yep.
it'll affect you.
For sure, 100%. It definitely does. So it's real important to find a balance of, I think of my business as my personal. I don't ever stop thinking about it. And I think of my personal with my business. If I'm having a bad day personally, I'm probably gonna be having a bad day at work in my business too. That's just how it is. And I think, having that balance, and that's what that book talks about, is the E-Myth. It talks about how to have a successful business, but not let it overtake your personal life, and vice versa, right? How to still have a personal life and not have it affect your business. Because a lot of times, even when I first started real estate, I was working 16, 18 hours a day. And I still have been doing that for the last month and a half because I'm opening up my own. And it's okay to do that. But now I'm ready to kind of take a step back, and once it's done, I'm okay, now I can breathe a little bit and have a little bit more personal time, right, for my personal life. But it's okay to work that much hours for months, right? But you still want to have that balance. Whatever that balance is, it's different for everyone. But that book is good, I think, for me right now because of what I'm doing and the situation I'm in on how to have a good balance, because I think that's super important, is balance your business and your personal life, for sure.
Kind of in the same vein of how to win friends and influence people, have you read the book, Never Split the Difference, How to Negotiate Like Your Life Depends on It?
I have not.
This guy who was like a hostage negotiator for the CIA, master negotiator, writes this book, and a lot of like salespeople, swear by it. I read it, I liked it.
Nice.
Maybe
I'll have to look into that one for sure. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think that it's important to, especially in business, I don't know what all you guys want to do, but I think just in business in general, it's very important to keep reading books like that, and always to not get comfortable, right? And especially in a business, as soon as you stop trying to grow your business and you get comfortable, it's when things change, and you have to be able to adapt to change, especially when you're running your own business. So I think it's very important to always work on yourself, because that'll correlate to your business growing as well.
Multi-part question.
Mhm.
So part one, where did you take your courses, and then knowing what you know now, would you take them at the same place, or would you go somewhere else?
You want my honest opinion?
Mm-hmm.
My honest opinion is I don't care about those courses. I don't care where you take them and who you go through, because I don't think it means anything.
Okay.
I think that they do those courses as a way to just see if you're responsible enough to take a couple quizzes, but those courses have probably 1% of what we actually do as realtors, right? And so I used Chamberlain Real Estate, and I still recommend them. I think it's a good program to use to get your license. But I think a lot of people get these courses, and it's about 90% of agents fail, right? And I think one of the things is it's not that hard to get your license, right? But I think people, you have 3 courses, the books are about this big, okay? And people try to read every single page, but that would take a year, 2 years, right? So my thing is in there's a lot of legal terms which you need to know, but I think you need to take the action of just getting through those courses as fast as possible, and then starting real estate, and you're gonna learn more than anything those books could teach you, just by being in the industry and actually being in the field and learning out through trial and error and having a good mentor, and being in a company that's going to support you. And the only thing you got to worry about is the state exam. It's a little hard, but it's 2,000. It's out of a pool of 2,000 questions, and you can get like a program that'll just give you all the questions that has you just learn them all, right, and then take the test. But that's my thoughts on that. Is I think too many people spend too much time on that to where they don't even want to get their license because those courses take up too much of their energy, and it stops them from really selling real estate, right? And so that's my opinion on those courses. Yeah.
So say you have your license, you're at ground zero with your clients and everything. Where do you recommend adding your value, or like taking your first step to getting in the right rating?
Yeah, so I think that what a lot of people don't do, which they should do, and I don't know why they don't, it's kind of like what makes sense, we do the opposite, and I think it's because we're always a little scared to do it. What I would do is I would reach out to every single person you know, right? It's called your sphere of influence, everyone that you know, your database, right? And the reason I say that is because a lot of people get right into the industry and they think, okay, I need to start cold calling, I need to start doing open houses. And basically that means you just want to meet strangers. But why would you meet a stranger that's not going to trust you, right? That doesn't know you, that has never heard of you before, compared to someone that might be your family, your uncle, your friend, or whatever the case is. They already know you, they already trust you. So why would you not ask them for their support and give you business? Or maybe they want to buy or sell. But people are sometimes just too scared to ask their friends or family, maybe because you're new, or maybe you don't think they'll want to send you business. But those are the people closest to you. So that's what I would recommend, is reaching out to the people that already know you and that you already have a relationship with. It'll make your life a lot easier, and you'll start to, you still want to do the other things that I mentioned. Still do open houses, still cold call, still do door knock, whatever one you want to do, or all of them. But use that one as, what I like to say is, use your sphere as your referral base, right? Get them to send you business. And what that is to me is like, I'm having everyone I know work for me, basically. It's like I have a whole bunch of like little workers, because they're out there, and wherever they are, they know 300 people. The person knows 300 people, and it's you just turn the 200 people you know into 5,000 people, right? And if they hear someone, then they can refer you. And it's important to get that message across that, hey, I really need your help when I'm starting. If you hear of anyone that's looking to buy or sell real estate, please let me know, because I really need your support getting my business off the ground, right? And people think that's begging. That's not begging. We're just offering our services to them, okay? So I think that's definitely the best thing, 100% hands down, the best thing you can do when you first get your license. Okay, yeah.
How did you keep track of your CRM or all your customers? Did you just write like everyone you would follow up with for the day on your calendar, or did you have an Excel sheet, or use HubSpot, or like, how specific?
So I've used a couple CRMs. I've used Contactually. I don't know if you've heard of that. I've used an Excel spreadsheet. I now use something called Chime, which is now getting changed to Loopy, I think. But that keeps track of everyone that I know, that keeps track of when I followed up with them, and then if I set an appointment with them, then I will put them in my calendar. But they don't go in my calendar unless I made an appointment with them, right? If not, then they're just in my CRM.
Do you keep in touch primarily over text or email?
And all of them. So they'll get an email from me at least once a month. And it depends how hot or cold they are, right? If they're super cold, they might just get an email from me and maybe a call once every 6 months. Or if they're hot and they're looking to buy a house, they might be hearing from me once a week on a phone call, asking if they've liked any of the homes that I've sent them, or maybe, just whatever the case is. So it just every situation in real estate is so different. So it just depends. But I think the biggest thing is having a way to keep track of all these things, because the goal is to grow and have thousands of people in your database, and there's no way to keep track of that unless you have a CRM or some type of system like that, right? So.
Do you put like small details like about their personal life in there too, or do you kind of stay?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's good to be personal too. If they have a birthday, say happy birthday. You know, if you know their anniversary, say happy anniversary. Whatever the case is, definitely you can get personal. You know, but also there's so many different ways of doing it, right? So if I call you every month and I say, hey, do you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell real estate? You might get tired of it, right? Or if I haven't talked to you in years, and then I call you, how you doing? You're like, well, I haven't talked to you in years. Why are you calling me? You know. But if you say, hey, I just want to let you know this is a business call. I just wanted to see if you know anyone looking to buy or sell real estate, and if you don't, can you just keep me in mind if you do, right? And then that way you're just getting your message across. You don't want to take too much of their time, and you go about your day. You go to the next call. There's so many different tactics and ways that you could do, and not one of them is right and not one of them is wrong. It's just whatever works best for you, and finding out what works best for you. What works best for me might not work best for you because our personalities are different. The people we know are different. So you really just have to find out what works best for you and then become great at it, right? And master that skill. Okay. Any other questions? Anything you want to talk about? Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, so your first sale that you made like 3 months after you became an agent, was that through your sphere of influence?
Yeah,
or was
that was through, that was a referral from someone I knew that worked at their job, that worked at the same company as them. And that's how I got that. So the same thing I told you to do, I actually did. And I called everyone in my family and friends and everyone I knew, right, and asked them what I told you. And I ended up seeing results from it. So, yeah. Did you have a question too?
I was actually going to ask about the same thing. I was just going to say, like, you know, selling your first multi-million-dollar commercial property within 3 months of, you know, starting, that seems like, you know, really ahead of the curve, like really, you know, unusual. I don't know because I don't know the industry personally, but that seems like a big deal. And I was just gonna ask like how you got that first sale.
Yeah.
But you answered that. But was there anything else besides like, you know, the happenstance connection, you know, that you think contributed towards that? Or if you didn't get that, you know, connection by chance, how long do you think, you know, it would have taken you?
So the average is 6 months before someone sells a home.
Mhm.
That's just the average of all realtors across the U.S. So that's not taking into consideration my age or whatever the case is. But you got to understand that probably 80% of realtors are part-time, and out of those, there's a saying that is 80% of the realtors get 20% of the business, and 20% of the realtors get 80% of the business, right? So, you know, you look at it as like, oh, on average, every agent sells 4 homes a year, if you take the average. But then there's some agents that are selling $500 million of real estate a year, $1 billion of real estate a year, right? And then you have people that don't sell a home. So real estate is something that I think if you're gonna do, you have to really put in the time and the effort to do. It's not just something that you do because you feel like you have a little extra time. This is something that you really have to make into your career if you want. And it is its own business as a whole, right? You are really running a business. If you want to do it correctly and you want to be successful at it, this is its own business, right? So, yeah.
Speaking of sales in real estate, how does the revenue part of it work? If you're working, like for example, with land real estate, are you salaried and then obviously making commissions, or?
No, so most, and this is just on a broad scale, maybe there's different situations, but most every realtor is a 1099 employee, so they're not getting any salary at all. So if you don't sell a home, you're not getting paid. And that's the thing about real estate is if I'm not out there prospecting and trying to find clients, I'm not getting paid. But I got bills to pay. I have a mortgage, I have car payments, I have all these things that I have to pay for. So it really is not for everyone, right? A lot of people, we're all in the business program here, right? And that's part of business is if your business isn't making money, you're not going to get paid. And that's why you have to really do this correctly and you have to put in the effort and the time, or else you might not see results and it could affect your personal life and it could affect your business. So real estate agents typically don't get paid a salary at all. You get paid commission. And once there's a funny meme out there that's like, for realtors, it's like people think we make all this money, right? And so it's a picture of someone cooking spinach, and they pour like the whole bag of spinach on there, but when it's cooked, it just looks like this much, right? And that's like the joke of realtors' commissions is. So you get paid, say, 2.5% of whatever the purchase price is on one side, if you're just representing the buyer or just representing the seller. And say it's a $500,000 home or whatever the case is, that's like $12,000, right? And then after that, then you're gonna give some to the brokerage you work with, right? And then after that, you're not getting taxed on your money yet because you're 1099, so you don't pay tax. They don't get taken out your check, so you have to pay them at the end of the year or quarterly, but you have to take into consideration that. But then you have to take into consideration all the fees that you're gonna pay every month to be a realtor. You have to pay a fee to open up the houses. You have to pay a fee to have access to see all the houses that are on the market. You have to have access. You have to pay for any marketing that you're going to be doing, any lead sources that you're going to be. So you have all these expenses. It's like your own business. So that $12,000, that's not really $12,000, right? So that's the thing that you have to take into consideration and really be able to budget your money and understand how much you're really making as well, right? So.
How much do you think you would be making? Because I know it's hypothetical, but hypothetically, off that 12,000, based on all the things you just mentioned, how much do you think you would be getting off of something like that?
I would say maybe about it. That's a very broad question. I'm gonna say probably about $8,500, but it also depends on what tax bracket you're in, and So my personally, and I don't mind sharing, my method is as soon as I get my check, I put 25% of it away in a different account for my taxes. So I pay 25% of it, and then I put about 25% of it in a different account just for my savings and all that. And then the rest I pay all my bills, marketing, whatever I gotta pay for it, right? So it just depends, right? And you have write-offs and all that fun stuff, but that's like hours. You could talk about that for hours. Yeah.
Did you always know that you wanted to get a degree and go to college, or was that solely for opening up your own brokerage?
It didn't really have anything to do with opening up my own brokerage, and you don't need to go to school to open up your own brokerage. The main reason I still wanted to go to college was to open up some opportunities and some doors to network and understand what's all out there.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily to have a plan B, but to just meet different people and to network. And everyone that I met here would potentially buy a house in 5-10 years and gonna get jobs. And then also to still learn some things about business. I came to Sac State for a business degree and I got it, and I do think I learned some very valuable things taking some classes, and I met which my main goal was to meet a whole bunch of great people. When I did, I met so many great people here that have led me to different opportunities and opened up my eyes in different ways, and has definitely been some great connections. So I definitely do not regret it. And so many people when I was going to college asked me, why do you go to college? What's the point? And I cannot tell you how many people told me, like, there's no reason for you to go to college. But there was a reason for me, and I stuck through it and I did it. And I think that it's great to build those habits and meet those connections, whether you're going to use your degree or not. So, yeah.
I know it might be too early because you just graduated, but do you have any like classmates or professors that bought a house from you yet?
No, I don't think I have any classmates. I have a couple. I've gotten a few referrals of people that have bought a house from classmates and professors, but no one directly. But the referral is just as good, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Still getting, still closing the deal and everything. So it's definitely helped in that way for sure. So yeah.
My friend's mom is a real estate agent down in Lodi, and she said that she specifically has been staying out of Sacramento for a few years now because it can be very cutthroat and competitive. And, down in more rural places like Lodi, the realtors are, somewhat amicable towards each other, but in more competitive cities like Sacramento, it can get kind of nasty. Have you had any stories or troubles with that at all, managing competitors and relationships?
Yeah, definitely.
Community?
I think it goes both ways, and I think it's the way you think about it more than anything, because there's pros and cons, right? Being in a competitive market and being in a place like Sacramento, you can look at it from a good standpoint of there's a lot more opportunities, a lot more houses sell, which the median house price is a lot higher than it is in those more rural areas most likely. So it leads to a lot more opportunities. It also leads to the other side of it, as there are always going to be people in any business, no matter what business it is, that aren't going to be that nice, that you're not going to like. And if we read the book How to Win Friends and Influence Others, it just kind of tells you how are you going to react to them, right? And what are you going to say to them? And are you going to let that affect your business or not? And I have personally not. I do have some funny stories that aren't the most appropriate of what people have said to me, maybe, that are just the very rude realtors or whatever the case is, and we've been through that. And I just kind of laugh about it now, and it is what it is, and that's kind of what comes with, I think, any business. I run a barbecue spot. I have customers that come and yell at me, "Why did you mess up my food?" It happens. There's just rude people in every industry, and that's just how it is. And the way we react is, I think, just how it is, how that situation is determined, right? So, yeah.
Can we talk about the barbecue?
Yeah, for sure. So, the barbecue, like I said, I started that about three years ago. We had a food trailer at first, and we would pop up on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The way we got the brick and mortar was through real estate, actually. Someone that I mentored when I worked at Lion had a restaurant, knew someone that had a restaurant that was an old barbecue restaurant, and asked if we wanted to buy it, and we ended up buying it. And that's how we got the brick and mortar. And now we have that brick and mortar still, as well as opening up a food truck. But I think the biggest thing about the barbecue restaurant is we probably moved too fast, right, than we should have, or most people would have, right? We were only in business for a year when we got that restaurant, and we weren't necessarily just swimming in cash because we were doing so good. We were only open 3 days a week. But what I can say about that barbecue restaurant is every single time we've had an opportunity, we've taken it. And some people will say it's risky, but I think that if you don't try it, you'll never know. And why lose out on an opportunity? What's the worst that happens? Is it doesn't work out, and you're back to where you were, right? And so I think in business, we have to be, us as business entrepreneurs and business people, we most of the time are a little bit more risky than other people. And I think that it's okay to fail, and that's part of it. And so with the barbecue restaurant, I've never been scared to take an opportunity or think we're moving too fast. If there's an opportunity that knocks on the door, we take it. And I think that's why we've gotten to where we are. Yeah.
What are the biggest successes you've seen so far with the barbecue business? And then what are the most notable mistakes or failures?
That's a good question. The restaurant is a very hard industry. Anyone that knows about the restaurant industry will tell you the same exact thing. It's not easy. Margins are very small, so much overhead, and so many bills to pay, right? And that's just part, especially when you're in a brick and mortar. So the hardest thing is to have those systems in place that are going to give you a successful restaurant, because I think having a successful restaurant relies so much on the systems that you have. Because in a restaurant, you're not able to be the cook, be the cashier, be the manager, make the schedule, do all these things, too many things. So you have to be a great delegator and be able to delegate a lot of tasks, and then you have to have amazing systems that are going to keep track of your food costs, your labor, and are your menu items too expensive, too cheap, right? And dealing with all that, it's a lot, and it's a very hard task. So you have to have a lot of systems in place to make that easier and for your business to run more efficient. Some of the great things is it's food. I love it. Who doesn't like food, right? And who doesn't like seeing people happy when they're eating good food? And I think one of the great things about the restaurant industry is just pleasing other people, right? And being able to please people so regularly, right? So in real estate, you might sell 20 homes, but that's still only 20 people, right? In the food industry, you can please 20 people in an hour, right? So it's a lot different. You get that feeling and that satisfaction of okay, I'm doing something good, and it happens over and over and over again, right? So it's more instant, I feel like. But the restaurant industry is definitely a very challenging industry for sure. Yeah.
So what would you say you're doing the barbecue place more for variety in your professional life personally, and more for fun, since logistically it may be more complex and margins are smaller?
I think that I am doing the barbecue restaurant to diversify myself and my businesses, but also as kind of not a hobby, but as something that I got presented the opportunity to be in, and I took it, because and I think it's working out, you know, and so it's not like a passion of mine to have a restaurant or anything like that, but I've grown to really enjoy it, and it became a great passion of mine. But it wasn't something that I thought of like, I want to have a restaurant when I'm young, or, you know, when I'm older type of thing. So I think when an opportunity presents itself, you know, sometimes as you lay your foundation, whatever that, my foundation was real estate, and I built that foundation, and then with that foundation, you're able to go into different things, right? Which can kind of diversify your income or give you some different opportunities. And I didn't want to bypass that one. So I thought there was too much good into it. So I decided to take that.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions or any other, yeah.
How far and wide do you travel to do this?
It depends. I've driven as far when I first started to California City, if you guys know where that is. It's about probably 4 hours away for a piece of land. And you know, it really depends. Usually I go about an hour and a half from the center of Sacramento either way. But it also just depends on how well I know that person and how qualified they are. And not that I turn down anything, but if I've never met you and you're just an online lead, and you might think you're just trying to waste my time, so I'm not going to drive 2 hours every day to show you homes or whatever the case is. So I've kind of decided that I got to take into consideration what else my opportunity costs. If I go show you homes and I got to drive 4 hours in the day to go show you a home that you might write an offer, you might not. It might not make sense to me, right? And maybe I'll give it to someone else that already works down there in that area and take a referral fee. So it just depends. But when I first started, I would drive wherever I needed to drive. So, yeah.
Fun question. What do you recommend from Kyng's Barbecue? What's your favorite?
My favorite thing from Kyng's Barbecue is the Mac Attack loaded potato. So it's a baked potato with butter, our homemade rub, a little bit of shredded cheese, mac and cheese on there, your choice of meat. You can put brisket, tri-tip, whatever. Barbecue sauce, sour cream, green onions.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your hours in front of the
Our hours are Monday through Sunday. Monday through Thursday, we are open 11 to 7, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're 11 to 8. Yeah.
Did you go on like a little research testing spree, like at other restaurants or other barbecue places, and going like, oh, I like how they do this, or I like how they do this?
Yeah, definitely. When we first opened, we definitely did, and I think that there's some things that we did, you know, and we've also been to Texas and tried Texas barbecue, right? And Texas barbecue is amazing. But then there's also some things that I don't like about what people in California do with their barbecue. But I think what we tried to do is bring some of the Texas stuff to here, but put our own twist on it, right? So we have those kind of specials that you're not going to find at any other barbecue spot, right? We have the loaded potato with barbecue, whatever barbecue meat you want on there. We have the loaded fries. And then you can still get your classic meat plates with two meats, two sides, or meat by the pound, or whatever the case is. But we wanted to kind of make barbecue a little bit more interesting, right? Because a lot of people in California, Sacramento area, barbecue's not like this famous thing in Sacramento like it is in Texas or, you know, Kentucky, wherever. And we're trying to just put that twist on it and bring more people in California, Sacramento to appreciate barbecue food and understand it a little bit more. So, yeah. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask because you said you drive a lot and you get like 1099s. Is that something you could write off like as job reporting?
Yeah, so it gets tricky. I'm not no CPA or tax accountant, but if you're driving for real estate purposes, you can write off your mileage, yes. But it gets so tricky. Like there's so much that gets into it. I would recommend talking to someone that does taxes.
Yeah.
But you know, like if you're driving from your home to the real estate office, you can't write that off. But if you're driving from the real estate office to go show a home, you can write that off, right? So it's definitely important to take some classes and take some, you know, tax classes or whatever you can, seminars, to start to understand that. Because I think the first thing in real estate is learning how to make money in real estate. How do you sell some homes, right? That's the most important thing. But then once you learn that, it's a whole different ballgame on how to save your money and not just give it to the government, and what tax advantages realtors have, and how to use it and save money from there, because you get taxed a lot. So, yeah, they'll take a lot of it. So, yeah. Any other questions? Or
think we're out of time, but thank you so much
All right,
for talking.
perfect.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Feel free if you guys